We had a lot to do, obviously. I think it's always good to get a bye to really kind of reflect on the things you need to work on offensively, defensively, and special teams. I think we addressed all those situations. Coaches did a good job of really kind of capsulizing the things that we needed to improve on for the next 5 games of the season. I think the players had a good mindset when they came back Sunday. They were well aware of our situation, being a 5-2 football team. Basically, when you look at the South and the North, I said it earlier in the season, before the season started, I said no one's gone undefeated in conference play, and that holds true again this year. No one's gone undefeated. Everybody's got a loss. It's kind of interesting. And I think going forward, when you look at both sides of it, whether you're in the South or the North, there's 3 or 4 teams that still, when you look at the conference schedule, have a shot. And that's what makes it so interesting in the Pac-12 play, is that everyone has an outside shot if you won some games, and we happen to be one of those teams. So I think that's the exciting part of it. Now there's a lot of work to be done. We play a good Washington State football team. They went through a little bit of a situation last week with their coach. The staff that was part of that staff had been let go. Some assistant coaches that were on that staff took over and did a fabulous job, along with their players, really playing good football. And they're a 4-4 football team, and a lot of experience on this team, a lot of experience on both sides of the ball. They got a big, powerful offensive line, a strong-arm quarterback. They have 2 really good runners. They have great contact balance. Wide receivers are nifty, and they have some length outside. Defensively, they're very active on what they do. They have an outstanding secondary that plays a lot of man-to-man coverage, linebackers that run from sideline to sideline. So they're much improved. They're very much improved defense. Don't give up a lot of points. Averaging about 25 points a game, I believe it is. Get after the quarterback. So they do a lot of good things. And this is a game that obviously both teams need. You got to keep winning in the Pac-12, because when you're running out of time, you start running out of games. And we know we have 5 games left, and this is an important game for us as well as for them. Questions?
Chris Carbon, Herm, son of a source. Herm, you have this contrast with your offense where you get a lot of yards per play, but then you go backward quite a bit.
Yeah.
And Case Hatch told us that you put together a list of all the penalties and offenders, and so just wanted your sense of that issue and how you guys can be better moving forward.
Well, I think moving forward, as a head coach, I've never had a penalty. I don't play. The players have to realize that, and I think the more you capsulize it, we have 33 fouls on offense. 33 fouls. We have 23 on defense, 11 on special teams. So when you think about it, you're averaging almost 9 penalties a game for almost 100 yards. So it's amazing we're 5-2. You're actually spotting a team 100 yards. You're saying you can have 100 yards, and we're going to play from a deficit and go try to win. Well, that's very difficult to do. Now we found a way to do it, but you can't keep living in that world. And I think the players understand that. They don't intentionally go out there and say, I'm going to go get a foul. They don't do that intentionally. But the 2 games that they reared its head and it cost us, and those teams beat us as well. Now, I'm not taking anything away, but you give second opportunities to offenses, or you give them extra yards with a foul tacked on. We know that. You guys are smart enough to figure that out. Offensively, you get yourself in some bad downs. And you're looking at 2nd and 15, 3rd and 20. There's no play for 3rd and 20. I mean, so you get yourself in a bad way, and you try to fight through all that. And we've been fortunate enough to do that and win 5 games. But you can't keep living like that. And I think the players understand that, and they have to fix it. I can talk about it. We can do things in practice. We have officials. They got to do it. They have to go, okay, no foolish fouls, let's stay away from that. There's going to be a penalty every once in a while. but we got to get that corrected if we want to win in a fashion where that doesn't prevent us from winning. Now, that's not the only thing, obviously, but that's a big factor.
Hi, Herm Edwards, Devil's Digest. The fact that Washington State did play a common opponent last week in BYU, from your experience, does that somewhat help the game planning, or it's really immaterial?
Immaterial, because they are what they're going to do. And it was one of those, it was a tight football game. It went back and forth, and they had opportunities, and BYU did a good job of preventing some play. You know, some plays you wish, there's about 10 plays in every football game that you lose, that you go, I wish I could have had that one you don't. And there's probably in that game you could look at it on either side of the ball and say, if this play or that play. And it's about opportunities, and we talk about that a lot. You never know what opportunity presents itself when the play kind of happens. Do you make it or you don't? And missed opportunities are critical in games, especially in the Pac-12. Because when you watch it every week, you just sit there and you watch the games and you go, this team had that record, this team has that. It don't matter. I said at the beginning of the season, and it's holding true. It's like, okay, everybody can beat anybody on a Saturday night, or hey, we got a day game, right? And so I just think that, you know, that's the conference, and it's kind of interesting when you look at it, because you look at the UCLA-Oregon game. I mean, that was a fun game to watch. It was very, very entertaining. It went back and forth. And then all of a sudden, a couple things happen, and the energy switches, and a team gets momentum. You know, football is a game of momentum. When you have it, it's fun to have, and it's fun to watch. And when you don't have it, how do you stop the momentum of it, right? It's like this ball that's rolling on you. And how can I stop momentum to get it back? That's the Utah game for us. If you look at it, it's two halves. I told the team, I said, we lost the second half of the game. First half of the game, we won. But the problem is you play two halves. The second half, we did not. They got momentum, and we couldn't stop it. We couldn't slow it down on defense. We couldn't generate anything on offense. And hats off to them, right? So it's just, that's the way the game is played. And we got another chance to try to correct it this weekend, on Saturday afternoon, by the way. Keep saying that. It's like, wow. It's like we play a day game. It's interesting. I don't know what to do. It's like, I generally get here 5 hours before, so now I'm going to have to get here. Oh, man, I get here by 4 o'clock probably. It's early, but I get up that early, so we'll see.
Michelle Gardner, Arizona Republic. Can you update us, Herm, on the injuries, not only the ones that haven't played, but maybe guys that did play that have been banged up, and how much this bye week was needed for you for that purpose?
Yeah, Chase obviously is ready to play. That'll be good. Johnny, I think, is ready to play. Evan will be a game time situation, but other than that, I think most of our guys, we've got a lot of guys back. I mean, the guys that have been injured for the season, I mean, you don't get those guys back. I mean, we've lost some pretty good players, especially on the D-line, that are gone, but that's just how it goes. I mean, every team has that. That's what you deal with.
Hey, Herm. Autumn Thompson, 12 Sports. Gus Farwell used to be a quarterback here a while ago, and during quarantine, he would go out on his balcony and sing opera for his neighbors in Spain.
I saw that. It was on a TV deal, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. I was just wondering if you've ever heard him sing or seen any videos.
I saw that. Where was I at? Was I at ESPN then or something?
I know 12 Sports did a story on it.
When was it? Like 5 years ago? 6 years ago? A year and a half ago. Okay, I remember that. But see, that's my mind. But I remember that. Yeah.
What do you think about his singing?
Talk about me singing?
No. Him being an ASU quarterback, back in the day.
Hey,
what do you think about it?
I mean, anybody that can sing obviously has a gift. It's a talent, you know. And that's interesting. But I remember seeing that. I don't know. For some reason I saw it and I was like, this is interesting. But opera is really interesting, right? I mean, we got a bunch of guys that think they're rappers, But opera is real singing. Not all the rappers are going to get mad at me. I'm not saying rap is not singing, but opera is a whole different level. Yeah, it's pretty good. Pretty good.
Coach Michael Carrots, I believe in Pac-12 football. Piggybacking off the bye week, I know obviously after a loss is tough, but as you as a head coach, how do you kind of balance obviously the team wanting to get back on the field right away, but just kind of taking the time through the bye to heal and obviously get ready for the next game?
Well, I think what you go back to is your experience in the NFL when a bye week occurs and how you want to handle it. And I thought for the most part, the players that needed rest got their rest. It was interesting during those practices that we ended up having. A lot of the kids that don't get to play, or I should say kids, athletes that do not get to play, practice was structured for them. So you're talking about the thirds, some walk-on guys. We actually practiced with those guys, where our other guys were on another field doing what they needed to do. But we try to bring those guys along, and I think it was good. They felt excited about the opportunity to play in our offense and our defense. And you also, when you do that, I think you put them on the spot a little bit. It's easy to sit in the classroom and think until you have to actually go do it. And so now we asked them to run our offense and defense competitively against each other. And it was interesting to see where guys were. And I think that's always the barometer of where guys are in your program when they don't get to play a lot.
Hey, Coach. Zach Keenan with Devil's Digest.
Yes, sir.
Was there anything this week with the bye week that you were able to do outside of football that usually you don't get to do in season?
I just think you evaluate yourself. You kind of look back at all the things offensively, defensively, and special teams. And that's what the coaches are trained to do. But outside of football, for me, no, I was here every day. I didn't miss a day. The coaches were done Thursday, I believe it was. And they got out of here for a little while. A lot of guys went on the road to recruit, which is still important, and they did a good job. Some guys local, some guys went out. Some guys just did it by, obviously, in today's world, by the screen, right? You can do it that way as well. Looked at some tape on some kids. But other than that, it was more of just preparing ourselves for the next 5 weeks of football.
Herm, you mentioned momentum and energy. What have you thought about during games, your players' kind of leadership and getting guys in the right gear and frame of mind?
That is important, that the leaders on your team have to provide energy when you feel like it's going in the wrong direction for you, right? And we have enough guys that have experience that's part of being a leader. Leading's easy when you're winning. Everybody wants to lead then, right? It's when it's hard and when you have to say some things sometimes to get guys' attention. And I think our guys understand that. We have some good leaders on this team, and the next 5 weeks they need to be leaders. There's no doubt about that, because it's an important part of our season right now as we head down the stretch. And every game is important. Every time you win a game, these next 5, it gives you momentum, right? And that's what we want to do. We want to get our momentum back. And it's kind of, we lost it. Now we got to find it again and go get it back. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, I talked to them about a lot of things, and I talked to the leaders. I wrote them a nice letter, actually, and told them what I expected out of them. So sometimes I think when you talk to them in person, that's one thing, but when they can read it and look at it, it kind of sinks in. I know I've always been that way. When I get a letter from somebody, it's kind of like, okay, I really got to focus in on what this thing is saying, and I can read it over and over again. So I sent them a nice letter about what I expected from them and what they need to do, and that's part of my job as a head coach, to always inform the players where we're at. As you know, you guys have followed me long enough. We're never in a panic mode, and we're never in a panic mode. We just let things settle, have a clear thought, and go about our business. Yeah.
Hi, Herm. Ray Belcora, Inferno Intel. You talked a lot right after Utah about resetting for this 5-game season. Does
Yeah.
the way the schedule sets up with the bye week and then 2 home games kind of help you get into an almost training camp type rhythm?
It can help you, no doubt. It helps you when you can pause and let guys reflect on where they're at, let the emotions of a loss out of their system, and then come back. And tomorrow is a big practice day for us. I mean, it's really big in the fact that how we get going in practice, the energy that we need in practice, the focus we need. It's all about the preparation. The game takes care of itself. It's a week of preparation, being dialed in on what we need to do. That's the most important thing, and I think this team understands that. We've had 2 little setbacks, and the first one was the BYU, and we found a way to get ourselves back. This was a setback, obviously, a week ago, and now we have to find our way to get ourselves back again, and that's the most important thing right now.
Tim Healy, Sun Devil Radio Network. Herm, can you talk about the significance of having a man of Donnie Henderson's caliber on your staff when you needed someone to take over the defensive back coaching position, and how has that transition gone through the first 7 games?
Well, it's between that room and the wide receiver room, it's a hard room because of all the personalities that you have. I can say that. I played the position, coached the position, and it's a hard room because you have a lot of A personality players in there. And Donnie has been around it. He has worked for me as a coordinator. He's an excellent football coach, and I think it's taken him a while to learn the players because you just don't walk in the room and go, okay, you got to earn their trust. And Donnie has done that. He's very honest. He has a way with him that we can communicate, and I think he's feeling better now than he was the first week of work, right? I mean, it's hard. I mean, there was 3 coaches put in some tough spots, and you got to win the trust of the room, and it takes time. It doesn't just come because you're the coach. It's like when I became the head coach here, I said the first thing I got to do is earn your trust. You might respect me, that's one thing, but I want you to trust me, and so that comes along with when you're winning. And when you have a couple tough losses, how does the coach react to all this? How does it respond? So I'm glad Donnie was here, and he's really doing a good job with those guys, because he's dealing with a lot of guys. All of a sudden, injuries have taken place, too. So you got to play some freshmen that might not be ready to play, or some guys that don't have a lot of experience that are having to play, and that's a lot, and he's done a really nice job.
So Herm, coming into the season, DJ Taylor was considered to be probably the best return specialist in the Pac-12, and obviously the first half of the season did not go as expected for him. As you take the bye week to evaluate all the players on the team, all the aspects of this team, do you see DJ Taylor maybe returning to a more prominent role as a punt and kick returner in the last 5 games?
I do, and I think I watched something yesterday or day before yesterday in meetings. Here's another young man that came in and that last year, their little 4-game season, and had an outstanding return against Arizona. And then had another one the prior week at UCLA, right? And I think in his mind, coming back this year, he felt like every time he touches the ball, he's got to go run for 100 yards. Well, it's not about that. It's about making good decisions, right? And I think this year there were some decisions that he probably made that he wished he didn't. Learning experiences for all of us because he's still young. And I think by taking him out and letting him watch, it kind of hit home to him that, hey, it's not about me just catching the ball and running. It's about all the other things, the little things I got to do. And watching him in meetings and watching him, just yesterday in our walkthrough, and watching how he was focusing in on the ball and just the little things you got to do, it was good to see. So, yeah, he can help us down the stretch. There's no doubt because he is electric when he gets the ball in his hand. Yes, sir.
Staying with special teams, you had a couple kind of miscues in that game. You had the 12 men on the field where you took a timeout, and also a little slow operationally with Logan Tyler getting on the field for the field goal. Can you talk about those two plays and specifically, and what you thought about some of your operation on special teams?
Yeah, what happens is that when the injury occurs, and the injury had occurred, a coach sent somebody in, and we already had the guy in there. So, I got to call timeout. We can't do that. But I just think that when you're dealing with all those guys, because there's so many guys on offense, defense, especially, and I've made mention to them. I said, what you guys got to understand is this: a couple things happen. Third down is critical if you're a special teams player, because something's about to happen. Something good for us if we have the ball, or if we don't have the ball and we stop something. So there's going to be a change of players, right? When we score, you're going to know before we even score, are we going for two or not? Because I'm going to tell them. I tell them. When we sit in a situation where we're crossing the 40, the plus 40, there's going to be some decisions made by me. Do we go for it on 4th and 2, 4th and 3, wherever the ball may be, or are we in field goal range, right? Sometimes you feel like you're in field goal range, and all of a sudden you get stopped or you get knocked back, and now, instead of going for it on 4th down, you got to kick a field goal. So you have to be aware of that. And sometimes guys aren't just honed in, they're over there kicking in the net or whatever, and it's like, hey man, you got to go. It's not, you got to go. And so I think that's part of it too. He has a strong leg, and we feel like 50 yards or to 60, he can hit it. Now, the odds you're making him are a little tougher, but he has a strong enough leg, and we'll use him when we're in situations where we have to kick it that way. So I just think being prepared, knowing the game, the situation in the game is important. I talk about that all the time, and we've got to do a better job of that.
Hey, Coach. Jonah Krell, WCSN. In that Utah game, Utah had 4 sacks on Jaden. In Washington State, they have a guy in Ron Stone who's second in the Pac-12 in sacks. So in this bye week, has there been an emphasis at all on just the offensive line protecting the quarterback at all?
Well, I think, a lot of times sacks are due to knowing the situation, right? When you're behind, if you're a defensive player and you got to pass, you're in a tough spot, especially if you're in some long situations where it's not 3rd and 3 or 3rd and 5, it's 3rd and 15. You got to hold the ball a little longer, right? And I think when a guy's struggling or they have an elite pass rusher, you got to find a way to turn the protection that way, have the back go that way, put a tight end over there, something to alleviate that pressure, right? And it's just according to how the game's being played out. And you watch games all the time, NFL games. They got the best players in captivity that play, right? And when the game is 3 or 4 score lead and they got to go back and throw it, not fun for the quarterback because they're coming. There's no run threat. There's not, okay, hey, what's the play? We're going to pass. And so it's hard. That's what makes football so unique. You want to play with a lead defensively because then you put them in a vulnerable situation where they got to throw. It's hard on those guys, man. It's at any level, and I just think knowing that, you got to ask yourself a couple questions. Are you willing to release 5 and put those guys on an island, your tackles on an island, and say you got to block the guy? Or do you want to just release 3 and block the protection, but then they cover you with 7 guys? So that's part of the chess game you got to play. And if somebody's getting to the quarterback, if it's one guy, you have to turn your protection, or you got to put a back or a tight end over there to stop him from doing that. Yeah, it's part of it.